call the Twilight Zone.
Steve Kerr, and you look at Steph and Clay, and even Draymond with his lack of performance.
He's at 2 in a row. 7 points for him. The twirling Doncic. Melting into the defense. The front Curry strikes. Swing, fly ball. Well hit left center. Robert Konya has homer. Rookie rushing record for the Steelers.
Look, he came into this game averaging 3.67 yards per carry. 42nd out of 49 qualified rushers.
Freeze to begin the third quarter. It has been incredible. Here he comes again. Oh, goodness. And a Greek basketball god. And he was a great guy to teach because
Rally Towel fam, good evening. Welcome to the show. Dingers, dunks, and drives brought to you by Mafia Sports Report. Big shout out, Tommy. What's up, gentlemen? How we doing tonight?
It's a beautiful, beautiful evening, boys. We're talking football. We're talking basketball. Pitchers and catchers are right around the corner. We're within 3 weeks of baseball conversation happening again. Things are good. Things are good.
Yeah, man, I'm doing well. Are you guys big Star Wars fans at all? Would you consider yourself a big Star Wars fan?
No, not really. I mean, I've seen them. I enjoy the movies, but I'm not.
Todd, what about you?
I'm kind of in the middle, man. I respect the legacy that is Star Wars, but I can't. I'm not a sit down and marathon watch kind of guy.
All right, so I learned something new today, and maybe you guys already knew this, but did you know Yoda had a last name?
Is this a dad joke?
It's Lahihu.
It's a dad joke.
Yeah, that's right. It was. You went too deep. You went too deep for that.
I think I had you right there, though. I had you right because I said, Yoda had a last name. Todd went, "Oh shit, no way! All right, I'm strapping for this one."
I thought maybe I was going to learn something new.
Yeah, Yoda Lahihu.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Scarecrow getting the Nobel Prize. He was outstanding in his field.
Oh, that's a good one. That's excellent, Bob.
I can't take credit for it. I learned that one yesterday, and I've told about 6 people that joke. I think it's hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Good on you. Good on you.
All right. Well, what do you guys want to talk about first? We've had a big week. Obviously, some history made last night. I think we can at least start with that. Did you guys stay up and watch that game?
No.
I did. So the beautiful thing about YouTube is that you could DVR on YouTube TV. So I got to watch it this morning like it was happening in real time, and it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I stayed up and watched it last night because I wanted to, and it was you just never think like when something like that happens that the whole game's gonna stop.
Yeah, you do. I mean,
but
they do it.
You do, but it's like
all the time.
I know, but it's just that's crazy. There's obviously been a lot of people, talking about the accomplishment and people coming to, say why Jordan's the GOAT or why LeBron's the GOAT. It's like, why can't we just appreciate the moment?
So stupid. I'm so sick of those people that they're just doing it for clicks or tweets and likes and whatever and media traffic and bullshit like that. But can we just enjoy LeBron James, please? Like I feel like I said this last week too. Like, can we just enjoy LeBron, please? Can we just have a moment? I mean, the guy is
enjoy the greatness that you're watching, a generational talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
A guy that has been in the spotlight and nothing has ever happened. He's lived up to every ounce of the hype. He has not had one bad scandal, personally. The worst thing that he ever did in his life was the decision.
Right.
And that was for the kids. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. It was just a beautiful thing to watch last night. I thought he was going to try to do it with a hook shot. I'm kind of glad he did it his own way with his signature, fade away from the elbow.
Mm-hmm.
That he's won so many games with. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But I had him scoring 40 points last night on FanDuel, and he had 38 by the third quarter, and the dude couldn't score 2 more points. So I was a little upset with LeBron last night, but overall, it was a beautiful moment.
Honestly, I was kind of banking on him not getting it last night by not watching. I was like, there's a good chance he'd scores like 25 points or 30 points in that game. I was like, all right, well, I'll just kind of see if he makes it, but prove me wrong. Obviously, a good moment, out there at center court, honoring the moment that had just happened, and a moment in history. And I've seen these ridiculous arguments going on that is LeBron James a pure scorer? Like, what does that even? What do you mean? What is that? Like, I've seen it all over ESPN. These people but actually debating the fact as whether or not LeBron James is a pure scorer. What? How else would thou define a pure scorer? Please inform me. Let me know what it looks like other than scoring more points than anyone else in the history of basketball ever. Please tell me what that looks like. Just a stupid fucking argument. I'm just sick of it.
I don't remember the stat, but he's done it in a crazy less amount of games.
Yeah.
It's granted there is the 3-point shot, which I know they showed that graphic last night where he's got like 6,000 something threes, which that definitely helps. Not going to say it didn't, accelerate the timeline, but the man has had to stay healthy for 20 seasons just to reach that point. And I think the one thing that made me the most upset was the comparison that they were trying to pull with Jordan, where it's like he took 2 years off, he played 3 years in college and didn't come straight, so he was missing 5 years. So if you do the math and take those 5 years that he missed, he's at 42,000 points instead of where he's at 32. And it's like,
who's to say that actually happens though?
Right?
Who's to say Jordan doesn't have an injured season,
or tears Achilles or some shit like that? Like who knows?
Right.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. There's always going to be that population of the NBA community that just can't give LeBron credit where credit's due. They just can't do it because they've dug their heels into the sand and said, Jordan's a better player than LeBron. These are all the reasons why. And then the guy becomes the leading scorer of all time, mind you, in 150 less games than Jabbar did it. And it still doesn't equate to what Jordan did.
Yeah. Right.
Even if you do that math, regardless of how many years are spent in college, it's only 2 NBA seasons. So it would have taken him in theory 10 more games than LeBron if he has to score 33 or 34 points a game to get to that record. And that excludes him probably playing the latter years in Washington, which were a waste of his time of playing basketball. And because he took himself out of the NBA for 2 years within the peak where he was averaging 30 plus. So,
and also why are we like giving Jordan credit for stepping away from basketball twice? Like, why are we like giving that as like a pat on the back or a feather in his cap? Like, the reasons he wasn't playing basketball were his own. Those were Michael Jordan's reasons that he wasn't playing basketball. It's not like he was forced from the game or barred from the game for some reason that he had no control over. He decided to step away. So no, he doesn't get, well, if we, like you said earlier, if we do the math and had he not, he did, but he did step away.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. Like what? Yeah. If he had scored more points when he was in the league, he probably would be ahead. Right.
Right.
That's kind of how fucking math works. It's just stupid at this point. It's so fucking dumb. I can't stand it anymore. The fact that we as a society will almost never be able to fully appreciate another superstar in sports. I'm almost at that moment now where like, we will never ever just enjoy somebody being great. They will always and forever be compared to somebody else. And we can never just be like, man, this guy's really good. This is a lot of fun to watch. Huh. And it's kind of like, I don't mean to be a cynic about it or anything, or bring anybody down, but what I hope to do is awaken fanhoods in people and just be like, you know what? Corey's right. The guys on Rally Tell Sports are correct. How about instead of just being a miserable misanthrope. I just watch the fucking game. Oh, there's a wild idea, huh?
Right. Well,
Coming out of here.
I think you're right, because now here's what's going to happen the next, like in the next 20 years, say there's another superstar that puts together these really great year over year. It's going to be, well, this is what LeBron did, right? People in our generation are going to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to give the LeBron comparison. And I can guarantee you in 20 years from now, basketball will change again. It'll be a different style of gameplay again,
Sure.
So you're right. I think people like to, what's the phrase? Misery loves company, right? People just like to bring them into their shit and want everybody to feel want people to feel the way that they personally feel about the matter.
I think we've used that phrase in 3 of the last 4 podcasts now, if I'm not mistaken.
Like the stream, misery loves company. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's popped up a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, there was a long point in time where everybody was like, "Fuck Tom Brady, I hate Tom Brady," and then like there was this shift of like, maybe it was when I think we talked about this. Maybe it was like once he left New England, it was like, wow, this guy is just fucking amazing.
Sure, because we didn't have to worry about him as in the AFC as a whole anymore.
And if you're gonna have that hate, here's what I'll ask of you, haters out there. So note for you haters, if you're gonna hate, do so like Vince Vaughn in Anchorman, where at the end he approaches one Ron Burgundy and says, "I hate you, Rod Burgundy, but God damn it, do I respect you." And that's how you should hate. All you haters out there, when you're sipping your haterade, that's how you got to hate, like Vince Vaughn,
Absolutely,
and Ron and Anchorman.
Beautiful,
excellent film. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was definitely cool to watch. It's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers do, after the All-Star break, because they are a hot fucking mess right now. I don't know if you watched that game last night, but the Thunder didn't roll out anybody with a big name, and they just dominated them the entire game. Like, it was a close game, but like the Thunder had complete control of that game from start to finish. And what do the Lakers have to do at this point, to kind of get to the next level, aside from just staying healthy?
So I think we saw a piece of it now. It's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
So the Lakers literally 15 minutes before we started, made we're a part of a 3-team trade.
They're working it out right now.
Yeah. So the deal kind of persists as Utah trades Mike Conley to the Timberwolves. The Lakers receive D'Angelo Russell, where he started, right, out of Ohio State. D'Angelo Russell drafted by the Lakers. Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt.
From the Jazz.
From the Jazz. And then the Utah Jazz receive 2027 first-round pick and Russell Westbrook.
So the thing about that Russell Westbrook going to the Jazz is that is just a cap dump for the Lakers.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate Russell Westbrook suiting up for Utah at all.
No.
I would imagine.
Again.
Yeah, well, moved or cut, I would imagine that's probably what will happen, and he'll be a free agent, and he'll be allowed to go sign wherever, whichever team wants him. I don't anticipate that he's setting up for the Jazz, but here, more Danny Ainge turning Mike Conley and 2 supporting role players into a first-round pick again. I think over the next 4 years, the Jazz have something like 15 to 16, maybe even 17 first-round picks or something like that. And there's more to come. I would imagine they still have a Olynyk that they can move, and they still have Jordan Clarkson that they can move. Basically, there's a really good piece actually on ESPN this morning that I read, or maybe it was yesterday actually. It was basically just kind of giving some insight into the Jazz front office right now, and it took us back to the draft in this last summer's draft, and basically it was Danny Ainge sitting around the draft room eating all of the snacks, looking around at everybody in the Jazz front office. He had just been hired a couple months back, and just sitting around looking at everybody and going, "Yeah, this isn't very fun, is it, guys? Yeah, it's not very fun having no draft picks, is it? Just kind of looking around and be like, this is why I'm here, to fix this shit." And the Jazz went balls deep on trying to make that run, with Rubio and Bogdanovich and Did they trade for Royce? I'm pretty sure they did, but trying to build up around Gobert and Mitchell, and it just didn't work out. So now Danny Ainge is back in, and he's basically said that, we're not trying to actively move people. We feel pretty good about where we're at. We're not afraid of landing in the middle because we feel comfortable about maybe not the 24 draft or 23 draft, but we're looking at the 24 and 25 draft, and we feel really good about, the core that we've built. And that core consists of 3 players that they said were untouchable at the trade deadline. That was Markkanen, Kessler Walker, and Agbaji. That was it. Those 3. And I mean, if you look at those 3 and you look at what Lauri Markkanen's done and Walker's doing, and Agbaji's coming on here, getting some more playing time, starting to, I think he's at, averaging 5 points and two or 3 boards a game right now, which for a role player just starting to get into the mix, he's playing well, shooting about 40% from behind the arc. That you got to feel good about that, a guy that has a lot of tools in the tool chest for a young core.
Sure.
Are the Jazz going to be in the lottery? Maybe. What they said they're not going to do is we're not going to make a trade to get up to like a 7 seed in the playoffs unless it's going to really help us long term. We're not going to do that. But what we're also not going to do is just unload people so that we suck. We're only going to unload people if the deal is right. And again, in the words of Danny Ainge, our job is to sit and wait. And we take calls right now. We're not making calls. We're taking calls. So I think that's an excellent strategy. And I think if anybody doubts it, just look at the Boston Celtics and go from there.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing about this trade too, you're talking about kind of moving pieces here and where they want to build the core, is that you've dealt obviously Gobert's contract, which is substantial, Donovan Mitchell's contract, now Mike Conley. So those were the 3 contracts that Utah had that were $20 million plus a year. Right. So now you're kind of tickling down into the sub 20s, but Malik Beasley's in that, I believe, that $13 to $15 million range. And obviously Jared Vanderbilt still being kind of in his initial rookie deal coming out of Kentucky. But, Jordan, you're talking about Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's in the $16, $18 million range. Kelly Olynyk's in the $12 to $15 million range. So really the only person you're paying a non-rookie deal or a vet minimum deal is Markkanen. And if he's going to, and Colin Sexton, excuse me. Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
But if that's your foundation, right, your guard and your scorer, that's a pretty good point to start at. I mean, it's certainly a different look, I think, than Utah's had over the last 5 or 6 years that we've seen. I've talked about it. I feel adamantly this way about Lauri Markkanen, is that he just needed an opportunity to be a guy that could get the ball, because everywhere he's been so far with Chicago and Cleveland, and he wasn't the guy getting the ball. He wasn't getting to shoot 15.
Wasn't getting time. Yeah, he wasn't getting minutes. Right? Yeah,
he's not a role player. When he was at Arizona, he was a double-double machine. He was top 15 in college basketball for blocks as a small forward. He's found his place where he could do his thing. And I think it's funny you bring up Walker Kessler, because the fact of the matter about Walker Kessler is he's averaging more blocks per game than the guy that he was traded for, and Rudy Gobert.
It's really funny about. Go ahead.
Walker Kessler's so similar. The comp to, they have kind of a similar like WAR in baseball. They have that for basketball. Walker Kessler is only 5 or 6 spots down from Rudy Gobert in the center position from that. And that's just based on there's nobody else in Minnesota playing Rudy Gobert's position.
Yeah, and I saw a really funny tweet about the Jazz stumbling across Walker Kessler, and the analogy was made that if the Jazz turn this into a core piece, which it looks like that's the strategy as of right now, the way he's playing, the amount of time he's getting, him not being a part of any trade talks or anything like that. They said it would be essentially like an old woman going to the Antiques Roadshow and getting quoted on a candlestick for $20,000 that she found at a garage sale. Is essentially the parallel of the Jazz getting Walker Kessler in the position that he is in right now. And I think you got to be, you're not happy with where you're at. You started 10-3 as a team you're like, holy shit, what's going on? They're like the last undefeated team in the NBA. And you're like, what is this? No, we were supposed to tank. What is this? And they've fallen back to earth. Clearly, I think they're at the 10 seed right now, if I'm not mistaken. Fallen back to earth. But if you're a Jazz fan right now, you feel really good about the direction of the team because you feel that you have a very competent front office and clearly have a head coach that has the ability to get the most out of the players. And that's being demonstrated in year one here. So I think if you're a Jazz fan, you feel really good about it. But Bobby, back to your original question, and I did an awesome job of derailing this. Where do the Lakers go from here? Obviously, I think they get a little bit more of a reliable scorer there at the point position. But really, I think it's about getting them to click because, I mean, if LeBron and AD and Anthony Davis has had some really good games over the last couple of nights.
Coming back from injury, he's played very, very well.
If they can just keep him on the fucking court, man.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well,
last night.
Hold on. Last night, regardless, last night was about nothing more than getting LeBron the record, in my opinion. Right. I don't think we can really judge the gameplay or anything like that because there was no other strategy. I would almost bet that inside that locker room, like, look, we're going to get this. We're going to get Bron the record. We're going to move forward from this, and we're not going to have to worry about it anymore. The longer this drags out, the more it's going to be the focus. Let's just go get it done, and let's just move forward with the rest of our season.
It definitely seemed like that. I mean, he came out. He had the 38.388 on the top of his headphones. Like, he was locked in. He was getting it last night no matter what. And that's why you saw him score 0 points in the fourth quarter. Like, didn't care. He was just coming out there. He had to get it off his chest.
Yep.
So the funny thing about we talked, Corey. I agree with this is a trade and dunk move for Westbrook. The Lakers were actually paying Russell Westbrook more this season than they're paying LeBron. They're paying Russ 47 and some change. I'm looking it up right now. LeBron's getting paid 44.5. They're paying Russell Westbrook $3 million a year, $3 million more this year to come off the bench.
I just don't think Russell Westbrook's ever been worth it. Like,
I would agree. Coming out of UCLA is fantastic. I mean, coming out of UCLA,
his days in Oklahoma City where he was putting up triple doubles every night, it seemed like, he is a talented player, but
I think we just got a little bit of the star complex going on there in OKC between all three of those guys. Obviously, I'm referring to Kevin Durant, James Harden, and then Westbrook, but you got a little bit of the star complex going over there. Three guys that wanted to be the guy and couldn't get out of their, they just couldn't get out of their own way. If those three could just have played together well,
that would have been disgusting.
Who would have known what that team really could have done, right?
Yeah.
But they just couldn't. It was an ego thing, and the joke was always, well, who's gonna share the ball? Especially when Westbrook and Harden get back together, and it's just like, who's gonna control the ball? Who's gonna share the ball? Who's gonna give up the pass? When so much of these teams' offense runs through 80% of the time, this guy has the ball, right?
Yeah, it's one-on-one isolation all the time.
Yeah, and I think like there was a huge influx of fame and credit for Russell Westbrook when the triple-double season was happening. But if go back and watch those games, watch the games where Russell Westbrook is averaging a triple-double. Is it a real triple-double? Is he really getting 12 boards a game? Because that's not what's happening. You're watching big guys evacuate the paint so that a point guard can make the rebound.
Steven Adams was there to control the lane so Russ could get in there. That was the whole point of the triple-double season. Steven Adams admitted that very early on in the year that once Russ had he had 5 in a row or 6 in a row at one point. Steven Adams said, my objective is to clear the lane out so this guy can get his 10 rebounds a night.
Yeah,
that was it. They knew that because there was a certain point in that season, especially for Oklahoma City, because again, they were bad. They've continued to be bad. Where they just wanted they wanted the record to be broken. They wanted to create the untouchable record that Russell Westbrook has for triple doubles in a season. I think that here's the thing about Russ, and I don't necessarily disagree that he's I don't believe that he's a superstar. I don't believe that because
I think he was.
Right. He's not anymore. His time in Oklahoma City was a superstar out of pure necessity because he was the best player on the floor. And when you lose 2/3 of your roster, right, meaning Kevin Durant and James Harden in the matter of a season, that's what you have to do. In order to win, you have to have the ball in the best player's hands.
Right.
And Russell Westbrook is his best when he creates his own shot. He's not good at getting open. He's not good at, in a mismatched scenario. He's good at bringing the ball up the court and creating his own shot. So, yeah, I think that there's something to be said about his ability to isolate. I think that in his prime, he was the best isolating pure guard in the NBA. But now he's kind of hit his stride. He's on the downswing now, and I think we're going to see him finish off. And it's unfortunate to see a guy who has such a strong career for 5 or 6 consecutive years. I mean, it was just like a flip switched, and he was just off. And clearly, this is now his 4th team in 3 years.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that because you look at a guy like Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes talks about this a lot on his podcast because he was a guy that was traded around a lot. He was moved a lot. And he always said, I was the problem. People didn't want me on their team because I was the problem in the locker room. Good guys stay on teams. Bad guys get moved every season because they're there for a specific reason. It's either to get to, the NBA finals and win a final, or to get a team good enough that they could trade you midway during the season and get rid of you and get what they need. And he said, I was okay with being that guy. And Russ has become that guy. He's just become a very, very expensive piece of a trade, though. That's my thing about him is that when you're spending $50 million on a 6th man, and then you're trading that 6th man to a franchise that has made it very clear that they're not willing to break the bank for anybody, then that the next step is that he will be moved again. And then it'll be his 5th team in 4 years. So if somebody picks him, I'm assuming somebody picks him up who's making a late playoff push or whatever.
Yeah.
But
to who?
I don't know. I was just looking at that when we were talking about
who has the. So here's what I would like to see for Russ. I would love to see him not necessarily in the same, he's not going to be filling the same shoes or doing the same type of play as this person that I'm going to mention, but the same type of minutes, the same type of mentality, the same role on that roster, not this specific roster, but as this person. I would like to see Russ in an Andre Iguodala role. I would like to see him as a guy that has been around the league a while and fills a role. He doesn't need to be off. He come off the bench. That's what he should be doing. He should be coming off the bench on a team that already has an established backcourt and filling in time as an extra weapon for a team to give them even more depth and allowing them to make that push that you're talking about. Because if you're relying on him to be your 1 or your 2, whatever you're going to, whatever, those are fucking interchangeable at this point. If you're relying on him to be in that front court or that back court, you're not going to get there. He's just not that guy anymore. So being that kind of role player.
Where are you going to put him? Where does he go?
I mean, does Miami make sense?
I was thinking Chicago, maybe. No Lonzo, right? So you don't have and I think I think Colby White is their point guard.
Okay.
Out of North Carolina. Yeah, I think that I guess maybe Miami. I don't know. You kind of have Tyler Herro and Kyle Lowry already kind of playing those positions. So
what about Phoenix? Added depth. Obviously, they're playing well. They looked pretty decent last night against the Nets. I believe the Nets ended up coming back and winning that game last night.
No, Phoenix beat them by 4.
They held on. Okay.
Yeah,
by the way,
with Booker out regularly, as well as Chris Paul getting injured regularly, adding some depth there maybe as a team that has kind of underperformed this year. have the Suns in comparison to where they were last year. Obviously a favorite to win the entire thing last year with the best record in the league. It's just obviously I think Dallas is out, no doubt. Golden State, no way in hell.
Good. Dallas is good now.
I think kinda. Sure, yeah.
No, I'm saying they're good on making moves. They can't make any more moves, really.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. They're out. Golden State, I don't think they'd ever entertain that.
No.
New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, you have no Zion till post All-Star break. They've already announced that today, or they did announce that today. Maybe, I don't know. New Orleans is funny too because they don't really have that's a true there's no position on the floor besides Valanciunas. Everybody else just they just do their own thing. Like you got Ingram on the floor and McCollum and Troy Murphy and Marshall and and Alvarado when he comes off the bench, he's your point guard, but he's only playing probably 18 to 20 minutes a game. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. To me, it's either Chicago or Phoenix are probably the two that make the most sense in terms of teams that need some depth and could use somebody that could actually put another 12 to 15 on the board every night. But the problem is that he's still, again, he has to create his own shot. He's not good off the ball. So you're changing your offense when he's on the floor. If you're a Phoenix per se. Right, because a lot of what Phoenix does outside of what a lot of what Phoenix does as a whole is there's a lot of kind of like the old Bobby Knight style motion offense where there's not anybody standing in any corner of the floor. Everybody's rotating around and kind of creating a shot, and Russ doesn't fit into that. It's the reason why DeAndre Ayton was able to get such a large extension is because there's so much movement around the ball that DeAndre Ayton's so good in the 4 points of the post that he's able to get himself open and get the ball quickly. So. It's hard to say, man. It could be a shocker. It could be somebody like the Wizards because the Wizards are really right there too on the cusp, and they require some depth with the quantity of injuries.
Back to Washington for Russ, huh?
But it's interesting though because I've listened to John Wall do an interview 1 or 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about his time in Washington versus his time in Houston. And obviously, he was in Houston while Russ was there for a year and talked very poorly about Russell Westbrook as a whole, as a player, as a person, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it was just interesting to hear that. So I think it's just a guy that is hard. He's hard to connect with, and he's not a guy that, he just doesn't create as much success as he used to anymore. That's just that's the way basketball works.
I put him in that group with like James Harden and guys that are extremely talented that will never win a championship because they go places and they can't figure out how to fit in. They can't figure out how to play with other people to be successful and become a championship caliber team. I feel the same way about James Harden. I think James Harden has a lot of those similar characteristics. He can take over a game. He needs the ball a lot. He needs us.
Bobby's kind of cutting out here, so I'm going to jump in. But I don't think James Harden can take over a game. Personally, I don't think he's as good. I don't know. I would rather have Russ than James Harden. Let me put it that way. The way that he plays is so frustrating to watch, in that it's almost it's cheap. Todd, are you with me on that?
I'm listening to you. I was going to let you work through that because I have a varying opinion.
I think the way that he plays the game is cheap. I think he relies more on rules than ability. And albeit playing, if you view the game more of a strategic attack of how to succeed, yes, James Harden is a very good basketball player. If you view the game at, I am more athletic than you, I have better fundamental skills than you do, and I'm going to emphasize that in this contest, then no, I don't think James Harden is there. Can he shoot a basketball? Absolutely. I just don't. I think Russell Westbrook has more fundamental skills than does a James Harden, and I kind of put them in different categories due to that. So that was what you were saying, Bobby and Todd. I'll let you expound upon.
You guys can hear me now, right?
Yeah, you're good, baby. You're back.
Okay.
I would love to see Russ be in that Iguodala realm to where on the Nuggets, I don't know, maybe with Ty, who's it? Ty Lawson and Andre Iguodala on that Nuggets team, is that, and Carmelo and all that kind of looked like we were like, oh, this team could actually do it for the Nuggets, and never got there. And then he went to the Warriors and played that role, and I believe he was Finals MVP one year, was he not?
He was.
Yeah,
that's right.
And that's what I would like to see for Russ, is just taking the back seat, shining when need be, but not needing to be that star. And I think the light is a little too bright in Los Angeles for that role to ever be what he could have been because of his name, because of his history, because of his past excellence. He has been too good in the past for that role to be possible. When you're a Lakers fan and you hear that you've got Russ, AD, and LeBron, I mean, 6 years ago, you're losing your mind. You think like, oh, we're gonna win like 4 championships, but it's just not the case anymore. So that's just that's what I would love to see for us going forward, is kind of backfilling a roster and being that depth there. And Todd, I'm interested to hear where you land on James Harden, because I hate watching him play the game. I hate it.
So James Harden, I hear you, because I think that people, myself included, I lack respect for James Harden as the quote unquote superstar, right? MVP James Harden, right? He's been an MVP. He beat LeBron in MVP voting, which is absolutely
insane.
Nuts. So James Harden is what I would call, what I call them it's a strategic scorer. James Harden knows that he can get to the free throw line 25 times a game and make 23 free throws.
Mm-hmm.
So he only has to make 30% of his shots to score 30 points. That is what James Harden has made his entire career out of. If you look at those prime years in Houston for James Harden, he shot less than 45% from the floor, which, again, that's a high number. 45% is a high number, but he's a 90% career free throw shooter.
Yeah.
He played to his strength. He got himself into situations where he could draw the foul to create the shot, to get to the line, get 2 shots, get back, not play defense, get the ball back, put himself in the same scenario. So what James Harden did for Houston in those years, because he plays no defense. He's a horrible.
I know. I just like how you threw that in there. I love
fucking it. Wet paper bag.
He is a sub 90 score defense player. I think I could play in the NBA and get pretty damn close to 90, because all I have to do is just get in front of somebody. James Harden doesn't even do that. But I think the big thing for James Harden, and the reason why he was an MVP the year that he was an MVP, is that he won them games because he got to the free throw line.
Yeah. Like James Harden will have a stat line that's literally like, James Harden tonight with 32 points on 6 of 14 attempts. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's more like 7 of 30. I mean, there were games where he would shoot less than 30% from the floor and have almost 40 points.
Yeah.
Because not only would he shoot the ball 30 times, but 4 of the 7 shots he would make would be threes in the fourth quarter when they're down by 5 or 6 points, and then he's drawing the foul to get to the free throw line and score 2. So that's where, if you look at James Harden as the player, and that's why everybody hates him, because you knew when you were playing Houston in those years that the guy guarding James Harden was going to have 4 fouls. And then the guy that was backing up the dude that was guarding James Harden was going to have 3 or 4 fouls. And then your big man was going to have 2 or 3 fouls, if not more. Right. I watched it happen with the Pacers multiple times, because that was early in the Miles Turner kind of end of Lance Stevenson era. Lance Stevenson had 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes when they played the Rockets like 5 or 6 years ago. Miles Turner had 3 fouls in the first quarter. Like he had made 11 free throws in the first quarter. He had 13 points.
Crazy.
How do you can't stop that, because his strategy was give me the free basket whenever I can get the chance. It's, if you know what you are, and James Harden kind of knows what he is as a player, it's a great strategy. I know I can get to the line 30 times a game and make 27 of them. I could do that. And I don't think that makes you an MVP. right?
No,
But
not by
I
any
think
stretch.
that the Russell Westbrook is the get to the basket, and his volume is I'm creating my own shot. I'm getting to the basket. I'm being aggressive, but I'm going to get a lot of open layup kind of style looks. Whereas James Harden was, I'm going to get the ball. I'm going to dribble around for 7 to 8 seconds. I'm going to get myself in a position where I can body in, body out on a guard, ball in the air, 2 or 3 free throws all the time.
Yeah, I mean, my initial point was just I looped them into that category where great players that will never win a championship because of their style. I mean, that was
Sixers
just my
are pretty
original
good
point.
this year. Sixers are pretty good this year, and he
he's
might
played
this
well.
year. And actually, he's making a liar out of all of us right now tonight. He's 7 of 11 with 20 points.
Right. So here's the thing. I'm talking.
James.
I'm saying Houston James Harden, MVP
Yeah,
James Harden.
yeah, that's
Houston,
fair.
Even Brooklyn
Philadelphia.
James Harden.
Yeah. So Philadelphia James Harden has the 3rd best player in the NBA on the floor with him most of the time. So he gets a ton of open looks now. That's the big change.
Are you saying Giannis, Joker in either order, and then Embiid?
Yeah, somewhere in that ballpark. I think Luka Doncic is getting close to a top 3 spot now in the NBA too. But
I would agree.
I think that he's in a position now where, if you're in the NBA and you can't hit an open 18-foot jumper, you better not be on the fucking floor. And if you're James Harden and you're missing those 18-foot jumpers, you're definitely getting overpaid, right? That's why Philadelphia was so willing to move on from Ben Simmons. It's the same thing.
Right.
So, yeah, he has become a scorer by chance, not the scorer for the team. He is a good circumstantial scorer for Philadelphia, and will somehow still end up in the Naismith. And likely, even if Philadelphia wins a championship, he'll end up in the Naismith, and people will, like you and like the 3 of us, will be arguing into our 70s about he should never be considered for the Hall of Fame.
I mean, just in terms of how much he's scored, I think that just the points that he's scored,
sheer volume of points,
and I think you would be negligent to discuss this era of basketball when you're discussing some of the top players that played. He's in there, but he has never, ever, ever been in the top handful for me. It's never been that. It hasn't. He just has not even been there. It's just he's not a guy that has all the multiple tools. And for me, when I'm looking at complete players, I'm looking at complete players. When I'm looking at the best players, I want to see all of it. That's why I think Giannis is the best player in the league. That's why, because he does everything. Same thing with LeBron. LeBron does everything. And people want to sit here and say, he never won Defensive Player of the Year. Michael Jordan won Defensive Player of the Year. LeBron chases human beings down like a cheetah and swats the ball into a different zip code. He's a freak on defense, guys. So
they can both guard 1 through 5. Like, it doesn't matter who they're put on.
Saying, man,
it's like whoever.
And that's the only reason Steph is there for me is because his offense is that much better that it compensates for. I think you said it on the show a couple weeks ago, Bobby. Steph's offense is his 30-footer, or Steph's defense is his 30-footer, and you're right. But I think it just I really value those complete players in the game, and I think that it sets them apart. And that they're just that's why Luka's not up there for me, because he's alive.
He's getting better on defense. So I think
he's gotten better every year. He's gotten better every year.
I want to circle back to this James Harden Naismith conversation that we were having there for a second, and just play devil's advocate here because I'm on the fence with James Harden. But the one thing that you look at, or at least I would look at, is if I'm voting for somebody to go into the Hall of Fame, first thing, statistics, and what did they do to change the game? And James Harden actually has one of those things. Everybody does James Harden step back. He was the first one to do it. Everybody thought James Harden was traveling. And it turns out he read the rule book and created a basketball move that now 95% of the people in the NBA use. The only people that don't use it are people that can't shoot threes.
Interesting.
or have a step back game.
And
to that level, I think, yes, I believe he is a Hall of Famer.
And to add to that, Bobby, another thing that he brought into the game really, and to Todd mentioned it earlier, is the ability to get to the free throw line. What he does, he literally brings the ball down to get your hands out over the zone into defending him, and then brings them straight up into a shot. Your hands are in no position to be moved out of the way. He's going to bring his hands into yours, creating the foul, and gets to the free throw line. And that's what I was alluding to earlier. Todd talked about it again in terms of strategy. He's playing a video game right now, right?
I hate James Harden for the record.
He is your dickhead cousin that, even though when you're playing 2004 Madden, you specifically said that you cannot choose the Falcons because of Michael Vick. He picks them anyway. And you're like, oh, whatever, dude, I'll still beat you. And then he's fucking running 80-yard back sideline to sideline runs on you all the way to the end zone, and you're fucking throwing the controller. Yeah, that's James Harden. Yeah, absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Sure.
I'll be honest with you, boys. I was getting a little worried about Giannis this year with just his inability to make free throws, and then some single-digit point games. Like I was concerned that kind of between the ears was getting bad for him, but he's bounced back really nicely in the last couple weeks. And
they're on a tear right now.
Yeah, it's crazy because he's not doing it in drones like he was. I mean, he would have damn near 50.9 games once a week. He's not doing that every week again, but his ability to spread the ball again, right? And he's shooting over 70% from the free throw line, which is really important for him. That's a guy that came in the NBA and was shooting, I think this first year shot less than 50% from the free throw line. So it's crazy that, obviously you look at a guy like Giannis too, and he's not really even, now I think the benefit to him is that they're getting these substantial leads going into the second half that he gets to take a break, right? Where he's getting to a point now where he's not even playing 35 minutes a game. So that's beneficial to him too, just to kind of work on the other stuff after games. But yeah, I was sweating Giannis, the kind of the between the ears stuff for him this year. I think we've just kind of seen him hit his real stride in the NBA and being the elite superstar that he is. And I was afraid that it was going to be a flip of the switch for him. But yeah, the Bucks are crazy right now.
They're on an 8-game win streak. Yeah. 9 out of their last 11. That during this streak, there's a couple of these games in here where they're not playing powerhouses, obviously. Since losing to the Cavs, they went out and just demolished. They put up 150 points on the Pistons. And then they beat the Nuggets. So that's a great win. Beat Pacers. I mean, whatever. Pelicans, okay. Hornets, probably one of the worst teams in the league. Clippers, they beat them squeaked that one out. Beat the Heat, another playoff team. Trailblazers, one of the worst teams in the league. And then they got the Lakers tomorrow night, and I think that they're just on a run right now to where they're probably going to end up blowing the Lakers out. I don't know if D'Angelo is going to be suiting up for that one, but I'm not sure how much of a difference it'll actually make. But that everybody's tuning into that one for sure. LeBron, Giannis, it's going to be a hell of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, boys, we're about an hour deep, and we've stuck on the basketball train.
Yeah.
It's been fun, but it is Super Bowl week, gentlemen.
So it's Super Bowl week.
We gotta switch the gears here and start talking some football.
Let's do it,
man. Big week this week. We got. So do we?
What week?
Find out
what week is it?
It's Super Bowl week. There it is. A little delay there, but we got it. And honestly, the reason why we've punted this to the end of the podcast is because I'm sad. Sunday is the last football game that we give a fuck about because, the USFL and the XFL are starting this spring on Fox. Go fuck yourself. I don't care about the only thing I'm interested in the XFL is AJ McCarron is playing in the XFL this year.
I am interested to see him suit up again. And
I want to watch.
Yeah.
But
I agree
and
with
Mrs.
you.
McCarron will probably be there. So Vern Lundquist is just like, oh my God. You quarterbacks get all the pretty girls.
I think the big thing that the XFL has done best so far between the USFL and the XFL and these reiterations of these organizations, their uniforms are fire.
Yeah,
they did under the Rock, Under Armour. They did an excellent job doing the thing that the NFL can't, and just doing whatever the fuck they want to a helmet. They're great. They're these like clusterfuck masterpieces on their heads, and then these jerseys are like what you would create in Madden 2007. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the beautiful thing about the XFL. It's guys our age and our age range that were doing that shit when they were younger. And then you get a guy like The Rock that's like, all right, make me these uniforms. And they're like, can I use purple and green and orange? Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's call it the Dragons. And next thing you know, you have a dragon wrapped around the fucking top of a helmet. It's a beautiful thing.
But it's the last
unis are dope.
It's the last meaningful football till September, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be a long off season, but
tricky.
Yeah.
It'll be here before we know it, man. Somehow it's already February. Next thing you know, Declan will be turning 2. The girls will be having birthdays, and
our girls are going to be 5. Todd, they're heading to kindergarten next year.
Oh god!
And you know what's crazy is like I feel like relative like compared to our parents. Like I'm an older parent. We started having kids later in life, but I think that's what our generation has started to do. When we take the girls to daycare, I feel like a baby around these other parents. We are clearly the youngest parents around. It's just weird, man. And you just look around your friend groups, even just look at this podcast, 50% of them have kids. That's it. Right. Yeah. So it's a weird dynamic to just think my kids are going into their starting school next year. It's wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's going to be interesting for sure.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
Football. There was a huge petition going around. I want this to happen, that Mama Kelsey flips the coin. That would just be amazing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but like if my brother was on the opposite team and we were playing the Super Bowl, that would be cool to have my parents flip the coin.
I think that's the best part of
I don't think anybody would be opposed.
I am. I'm opposed. It's not because it's not about the Kelseys. That's not what it is. This isn't the Kelsey Bowl. It's about the Chiefs and it's about the Eagles. And there's more than just 2 people on those teams. And I think it's more about Jalen Hurts than anything. Jason Kelsey is important to that team. Let me be clear, but the Eagles are not going to win or lose because of Jason Kelsey. Like that. Sure. That's just not going to happen.
I think it's just they're the most popular thing that's kind of come of all that. Well, it's the first time ever that 2 brothers are playing against each other in the Super Bowl.
I don't think that's. I think I saw on Twitter that there are 2 other instances
on opposite teams, though, or not? Because I thought it was.
I believe
it was the first time.
Did Ryan Glasgow play in a Super Bowl?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
I could be incorrect about this, but I was under the impression that they had played against each other. Brothers had played against each other. But I could be wrong, and maybe they're just obscure references to games of old, of yesteryear. But either way, yeah, it's a cute story. But once that first whistle blows, nobody's gonna give a fuck about that anymore. We're looking at Mahomes, we're looking at Hurts, we're looking at Devontae, and we're looking at Travis Kelce, and we're looking, obviously at all the weapons on the Eagles, and we're worried about that. And I think,
what do we think here about the Eagles? My point being, their road to the Super Bowl was not exactly a difficult one.
Easiest one in history.
And the Chiefs, on the other hand, went through the fucking gauntlet. And I wouldn't say
Jags.
The Jags are a good football team. They're going to be a good football team coming in next year. I'm not saying. I think the Jags are better than the Giants.
I think that is a pretty close. I think that spread is like 1.5. Like that's close, but neutral field.
I think the best 3 teams were the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Eagles. And I think
a healthy Niners team is there. Like we said, going into championship week, like those were the 4 best teams. Clearly, we felt comfortable about that. But I think I'm with you on that. Like going into championship, like I wanted the Bengals to win, obviously, and I wanted the Niners to win. I didn't want to play the Eagles. I wanted to play the Niners.
So what do we think here about the Eagles? My point being, their road to the Super Bowl was not exactly a difficult one.
I wanted the Niners to win. I didn't want to play the Eagles. I wanted to play the Niners. I wanted Brock Purdy. Like that's what I want to play.
For sure.
I want to play a 7th round draft pick in the Super Bowl, please. A rookie 7th rounder. Yeah, I'll take that.
Speaking of that, have you guys seen all these revamps of this past year's draft? And so the way that it's basically shipped out, this guy's redraft was the Jaguars take Sauce Gardner number 1 overall. Never going to happen. A quarterback's never going to be taken number 1 overall.
No.
Then it's Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions. Makes sense.
Sure.
Tariq Woodley goes to the Texans instead of Derek Stingley. Same position. Had a similar year. Whatever. The Jets take Brock Purdy number 4 overall. That's what this guy put into a draft. So before Kenny Pickett, before Malik Willis, before Sam Howell, before Matt Corral, before Desmond Ridder. And people were like, oh, yeah, I could see how that makes sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you why. Because I'll be honest with you. There is not like Kenny Pickett could step into that offense and do really well. Like he could be on that 49. Like look at the weapons that they have around them. Look at the defense that they have. It's pretty easy to go out there and manage a game when you know you got that defense backing you up. When
if you have score 17 points as a quarterback, you're going to win there.
Yeah, when you've got Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey. I mean, I'm talking that's an insane roster, guys. Like
deep.
I'm not saying though is that Purdy isn't good enough to start in the NFL. I'm not saying that because I think he's earned a shot for sure. I think it's also very telling that if Garoppolo was healthy, he would have started in the NFC Championship game over Purdy.
I agree.
A healthy Purdy, he would have started over him. They talked about that multiple times that the Niners were hopeful that Jimmy G would be healthy enough to come back and play for the NFC Championship game. Just didn't happen. So I don't. That's clickbait in my opinion. It's bullshit journalism. It's lazy. And
it is. And I think the thing that disappoints me, and humanity does this to me a lot, is people.
It's good.
Yeah, well, I never said I was all sunshine and rainbows. I think that the big thing that I learned from this and reading the comments, because you're right, it's clickbait. I looked at it. I looked at the other picks this guy put together, which weren't terrible outside of this and Sauce Gardner going number 1. Because again, there's never going to be a cornerback that goes number 1 overall. It's not a you don't give a cornerback $30 million in a 5th-year option. It's just the amount of people that number 1 agreed, and then the arguments for other people were like, well, what other quarterback would the Jets have drafted? None. They didn't draft one. That's the answer. There was intent behind them not drafting a quarterback in the first round with both of their first-round picks that they had.
Look at how much better they got this year without drafting a quarterback.
Sorry, I got off on a tangent. It grinds my gears to hear people just –
it really grinds my gears.
Throw logic completely out the wayside and be like, yeah, Brock Purdy was undefeated as a quarterback in the NFL. Sure. I'm pretty sure if Kyle Shanahan spent a couple weeks with me and I got under center, I could probably win a football game just in happenstance.
That's
Nick
Mullen.
Look, if Nick Mullen could do it, I could do it. That's all I'm saying.
I think you need a little bit more time, but yeah, I mean, I think
2 months. Sorry, maybe not enough time. Sorry.
No, I think it just goes to show you that Kyle Shanahan is an excellent coach, and it doesn't take a lot for somebody to come into his system and be successful. Which speaks volumes to the coaching and the game planning and really setting your players up for success. So I would attribute a lot of that to coaching. I mean, Purdy did a really nice job. You obviously have to go out there and make the plays, but coaching is definitely a huge factor. And if you send Purdy to New York, you don't see the same Purdy, and you're not saying that Mr. Irrelevant is going to be anything relevant. So. Yeah. I think the only reason he is relevant is because of the coaching. But anyway, we've got a football game on our hands. We've got what's the spread on the game?
1.5.
Okay, so it's pick 'em.
Nothing.
All right, Corey? What do the Eagles have to do to win this game?
Yeah, they've got a daunting task ahead of them. I think one of the things that they have to do is get Jalen Hurts going early. They have to get him comfortable in the game situation. This is something unlike anything else that he's ever really played. And I understand that he's been in big games before, but the Super Bowl is much different. Not just the fact that it is the biggest game of the year, it is the most watched event in the world, or at least in America. Let me back that up. It is the most watched event in America every single year. So there's obvious pressure that comes along with playing in a Super Bowl. The pace of the game is also very different. If you listen to anyone that talks about playing in a Super Bowl, is how fast it seems to go. You blink and you're at halftime, but then when you get to halftime, you feel like it's halftime forever. It's a longer halftime than you're used to. Normally, what you do is you go in at halftime, maybe you change your socks or something like that, grab a couple orange slices and a Gatorade and head back out and get warmed up. It's a 15-minute halftime, 20-minute halftime. It's very quick. Super Bowl, you're talking about 45 minutes that you're in there, potentially take a shower and revamp, and you almost have to redo your entire process of getting warmed up for the game. So it's just going to be different, right? So I think getting him comfortable early is going to be huge. And one way to do that is you don't want to take the ball out of his hands. I'm not trying to say that, but kind of in a sense is lean on that three-headed monster that you have in the backfield of Sanders, Gainwell, and Scott, and establish some running game. And what you're going to do when you do that is when you establish a running game is you also give that offensive line a lot of confidence to pass protect. So when the line can get out there and let loose and push back, they're going to keep things open for Jalen when he drops back to make some passes to his playmakers, which they need in a big way. From the defensive side of the ball, I think it's pretty clear. Obviously, McCole Hardman is out. So the big thing is going to be Travis Kelce. I mean, that's the major thing. But outside of that, you gotta look for these running backs, man. You gotta look for McKinnon. I think they elevated Edwards-Helaire as well. He's back on the active roster. And then I'm blanking on
McKinnon.
No, McKinnon
Pacheco.
And then Pacheco. Thank you so much, the rookie. You got to watch them because they're versatile. They can do a lot for that offense, and I think that's why the Chiefs went out and got Pacheco, is because he's an extremely lightning quick back. That's also really good in the pass game, and
he's dangerous.
They have a deep threat as well in Valdez-Scantling, and what I want, if I'm if I'm the Eagles defensive coordinator, what I want to do is make Patrick Mahomes hold the ball as long as possible, and I'm comfortable with my front four getting home. I think that is what I want to try and do, is get home with my front four, make Mahomes hold the ball, because what the Eagles are really, really good at is taking the ball away. And then what they're also really good at is sacking the quarterback. Yep. So if they can do that, now much easier said than done,
right?
Guys.
How mobile is Patrick Mahomes going to be on Sunday? That's the big question. I mean, against Cincinnati, he was still fairly mobile coming off that high ankle sprain. I mean, he was obviously impacted, but not as much as we all thought he would be.
And I think Romo pointed it out in the game, and I think he was exactly right, is that it almost helped him being in the pocket more. It almost made it harder to game plan for him when he was more stationary in the pocket, and he had tons of time. I mean, the Chiefs' offensive line played phenomenal in that game.
They did.
I don't know. It allowed him to see the field clearer. It made him more threatening. You were only worried about his arm, and if you have one thing to worry about at Patrick Mahomes, you don't want it to be his arm, right? I mean, the guy can put the ball anywhere on the field from any angle. So it almost made him more dangerous in that he was a pocket passer rather than a creator or an ad-libber. I think 2 weeks is huge. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. I think Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be 100% healthy at this point. That's just what history is. His ability to overcome injury has been phenomenal in his first 6 years in the league. So
yeah, it's a guy that dislocated his kneecap and played the next week. So it's pretty impressive.
I had him on my fantasy team that year. I remember that.
Pretty damn impressive. He wanted to come back in that game. I listened to him talk about that with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce on their podcast. Is he was in the training room suiting back up, and he's in the training room with a someone who is like not yet through school, through PT school or whatever, to athletic training, getting their degree, and he's like, "Hey, can I get back out there?" And they're like, he's like, "You're not going to tell me no." And he starts walking back out on the field, and the GM is in the tunnel. Was like, get the fuck back in the locker room. What are you doing? It's more important than just this game. He's like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "Your kneecap was just out like 35 minutes ago. No, get back in there," because they had to reset his kneecap too. That was another part of it. Is that it was a full dislocation. It wasn't even like an in and out situation. So
yeah. God,
been there.
I've had that happen twice.
It sucks. I've been there.
And on the other side of the coin, looking at what do the Chiefs have to do in order to win this football game, I think it's the exact opposite of what the Eagles have to do. I think that you have to rattle Jalen Hurts. I think you have to hit him. You have to get there. You have to make things uncomfortable for him. You can't let him get comfortable. You need him on edge. You need him feeling like he has to beat you alone. And when you do that, you give yourself an opportunity to generate turnovers. Also, for the Chiefs, I think offensively, they need to be versatile. They need to be dynamic. You don't want Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 45 times on Sunday. You want, Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 32, 35 times on Sunday at the most. I think that if you're doing that, then that means your offense is generating points quickly. And not only that, but you're utilizing every aspect that you have in that offense. Whether that's the jet sweep, whether that's running the ball straight up, or just the dink and dunk and moving the ball down the field quickly, getting a big play with Valdez-Scantling down the field or something like that. I think if they're able to rattle Jalen early, look out. This could be over quick, and that's saying something, because the Eagles are probably the most complete team in football right now. They have more than likely the deepest roster in the league, particularly on that defensive line perspective. So if the Chiefs' offensive line can stay fresh, stay amped, and keep Mahomes clean, that's going to be huge, because this Eagles D line, they're like 8 fucking deep, and they just keep popping fresh bodies in through the entire game and are pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. They've proved it all year, guys. Like it's just what they do. Todd, I don't know where are you at on Chiefs key to. If I get tired of talking, what are the keys to success for the Chiefs? Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, like that. Yeah. Like, we know the recipe, right?
Chris Jones.
Right. Yeah. So I think the big thing, looking at what Kansas City has to do. So I'll start defensively here, because obviously I think the recipe, you've kind of said what Kansas City has to do on offense, right, is create motion. They did that very, very well against Cincinnati. They had a ton of motion prior to snap that created a lot of mismatches. It created mismatches between Mike Hilton and Valdez-Scantling multiple times due to motion before the ball was snapped. I think they did. Andy Reid has always done a great job at that. I think that's obviously, this is a team in Philadelphia that these guys played for this guy, so they know some of the cards that Andy Reid has in his deck, right? Especially on the defensive side of the ball. These guys should know what they're looking at. Jaden, thanks for liking the stream, buddy. But I think the big thing, fellas, and we talked about, how do they stop Jalen Hurts? But I think Jalen Hurts is gonna get super mobile this game, guys. I feel like we're gonna watch him rather than try to create something over the air. I think we're gonna watch him run first and try to build the dynamic that way down the field, because he's gonna go for the sure thing rather than force the ball. Because as you said, Philadelphia is excellent at creating turnovers. The secondary and Kansas City has gotten better and better as the years progress, and it's a team that also creates a lot of turnovers. So I think we're going to watch Jalen Hurts run the ball a lot. I'm very interested to see that. Right now, I've seen some props for Jalen Hurts over 10.5 attempts rushing in this game. I'm kind of inclined to take the over here. I think that he's going to hit that. I think he's going to run 12 times is probably where he ends up running. But for Kansas City on the defensive side of the ball, it's just going to be a matter of stopping kind of the edge for Jalen. Jalen Hurts does all of his magic when he gets to the front edge of an offensive line, right? He's not a guy that, like Mahomes, where he does a lot of illusion and back and forth. Jalen Hurts is quick to one side of the field or the other. He's not a guy that dicks around a lot in the pocket. So I think you're going to watch him. You have to watch him if you're Kansas City, and obviously Chris Jones and Karl Loftus and those guys, they played very well against Cincinnati. But this Philadelphia offensive line is a bear. It's the best or the second best offensive line in the NFL. So pressure to Jalen Hurts is going to be really tough. So obviously the next level to the field is, what are you going to do with AJ Brown? And I don't know. I don't necessarily know if Kansas City has a firm one-on-one guy to slow down AJ Brown, because then if you're double teaming AJ Brown, Devonta Smith is a ball hawk. He's a volume receiver. Yeah. And we've watched that chemistry between Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith be very consistent over this year. So I think for Kansas City, it's going to be a matter of getting the ball to the third option when they go to the air, forcing the ball to Dallas Goedert or Quez Watkins, whatever the circumstances may be. I don't know I can't sit here and tell you how I think they do that. I mean, you could certainly run a bunch of cover 3 or like a zone 2 to try to push the ball away from AJ Brown, right, and force that nickel back to his side of the field. But if we've watched anything with AJ Brown with a good quarterback, he'll find a way to get the ball out of the air. But offensively for Kansas City, outside of the obvious throw the ball to Travis Kelce 12 to 15 times, and hopefully he catches it 10 to 12 times, it's gonna be running the ball, fellas. They gotta run the football, and they got to run it a lot early on, and they got to set the precedent that they can move the ball on the ground to set up more of the bang, bang, bang plays on Philadelphia, because they're not going to give up the big passes. So they're not going to allow the 10 to 12 second play to come to fruition for Pat Mahomes, because the secondary is locked down in Philadelphia. They know how to keep the ball out of players' hands. So I think the key for Kansas City is get the ball on the ground. And I'm sad, obviously, that we're watching Kansas City play in this game, but I think this is a great matchup, fellas. I think we're watching two teams with two young quarterbacks we're going to be similar. If it was Cincinnati and Philadelphia, we're just going to be saying these guys' names over and over and over and over again for the next decade. And I think this is a great matchup. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see some excellent quarterback play on Sunday. We're gonna see some scrambles. We're gonna see some plays that probably shouldn't happen because their ability to use their feet and extend plays. It's gonna be a fun game to watch. Now, I think experience is gonna have a lot to do with this game, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts does. Obviously, Mahomes, this is not his first rodeo, so I expect him to obviously come out with a little more confidence, and I expect the Chiefs to go up early. That's my anticipation for this game is the Chiefs are going to go up early. By how much, I don't know. Probably 7 to 10 points. And it's going to be Eagles playing catch up, which I think they can definitely do. But man, it's going to be a fun game to watch, and I'm looking forward to it. I know for you guys, it's it's kind of bittersweet. Obviously, I'm okay at the I had a lot of fun watching the Bengals this year. So Bengals fans out there, I think are at this point we've moved on from it. We're excited about the next couple of seasons as well. We're excited for Joe Burrow to get an extension, and some news actually that has come out over the last few hours about Joe Burrow's extension is
Jamar Chase has been talking to people. Obviously, he was in the Pro Bowl this last week, scored a couple of touchdowns in the flag football game. Trey Hendrickson won the punt catching competition as well for catching the most footballs at one time during that. That was pretty cool. But Jamar Chase said that, that he's gotten some insight on the Joe Burrow contract, and essentially Joe Burrow wants to be able to structure his contract so that he can keep his weapons, which is insane.
What Pat Mahomes did, right, with Kansas City, he did a kind
it's
of
crazy.
Thing.
It's crazy because he doesn't have to. He could get whatever he wanted. He could be the highest paid quarterback in the history of football, and the Bengals would sign him. But I think that just shows a lot about Joe Burrow, and that he doesn't need an exorbitant amount of money to, one, affect the change that he wants to affect in the world, because I think that is a big part of who he is, and giving back to his community and building his community and things like that. He wants to win. And I think that's pretty cool as a fan of him. So I think the Browns feel good about that too. But
I mean, if you really think about it, a guy like Joe Burrow, like a guy that could spend his entire career in Cincinnati, a one-team guy, you can take less money and have your life made after football.
Yep.
In that respect, you can still, have your personal ventures. A guy with his personality would probably, go to the broadcast booth after, or something to that effect.
He's not
I don't
big
know
on media, though. He's not. He doesn't like the spotlight.
What I'm saying is, if he wanted it, he could get it.
Yeah,
but yeah, he could get that couple $100 million contract in the booth. But he would, what I'm saying is, he doesn't need a big contract while he's playing to have his life made.
I agree, and
he's smart for doing it the way that he's going to be doing it.
So some of the business ventures that he's been involved in, and I think Travis Kelce and him are together on this investment. They have purchased a farm out in the Midwest, I believe out in Iowa.
Sam Hubbard too.
Yeah, so they have purchased a farm that they're going to be using to as like a cooperative, basically, and they're just flooding it with money so that these farmers can be, more sustainable financially going forward, as well as he is a investor in a professional women's volleyball league that is going to be getting started as well. So it's just, $5 million here, $10 million there, these little ventures that he's throwing his money into. It's clear, and small endorsements. What's the Lordstown Motors? I think he's the face of Lordstown Motors, that electric vehicle manufacturer in Ohio. Kroger, does Kroger ads. It's little stuff, you know what I mean? Which I think is good too. Not too much glitz and glam too early, but it's not Joe Burrow day. It's Chiefs and Eagles. We can talk about that this offseason. I did it again, man. Took you guys off on a little tangent there, but let's talk about the game. Let's make some picks. Okay. I want winners and why, and MVP.
I'll start.
Okay.
So I'm going to say final score is Philadelphia 27-24. It's going to come down to Philadelphia is going to create a turnover in the fourth quarter that's going to get them the ball back off of a score that turns into 3 points, and that's how they win the game. They keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands with any time left in the fourth quarter, less than 30 seconds.
Less than 13, right?
Yeah, 13, 30, whatever you want to give them.
All right, Bills fan.
And MVP of this game, I'm going out on a ringer. I'm saying AJ Brown. Brown catches 2 tutties in this game. One of them being the marquee touchdown that they score in the fourth quarter that gets them the ball back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to talk it out of a quarterback's hands. I'm trying to put it into a different position player's hands. But yeah, I think Philadelphia is going to have the ability to make Pat Mahomes make a mistake late in the game, and it's going to get them the dub.
All right. Well, a couple of things before Corey and I get into our picks. Guys, we have merch.
Yes, we do.
We have some sweet merch. Not this stuff, but same brand. on the app, or not on the app, on the website. We'll put the link in the chat. We do have our Super Bowl squares as well. I think I sold a couple more today. I think we've got 60 squares left.
60. Yeah, my dad just bought 5 more. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then we're at like 55 then.
Sweet.
So we're
and I'll have 5 more tomorrow, boys. So we're gonna be at 50 by about 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, they're going like hotcakes. We still got half of this week and obviously the weekend before this thing gets kicked off. Half of it's going to Parkinson's research. Definitely a cause close to home for the podcast here. And if you haven't already, follow us on all platforms. Now, Corey, what are your thoughts?
I think this is going to be a fun game. As we've mentioned, these are, the 2 best teams in the league, I think. At the end of the day, Super Bowls are won by 2 things, in my opinion. It's a head coach and it's a quarterback. And I'd be hard pressed, and I get why the Eagles make sense here. They're favored. I get it. But when it comes down to picking just a singular game, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes over Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to take Andy Reid over Sirianni. That's just it. There's not much more else that I can expand on the why behind that, other than the fact that I'm going to bet on Patrick Mahomes almost every single time, unless he's playing my team, and then I'm going to root for him to lose. But he is just that kind of player to me, and I haven't seen Jalen in a situation like this yet. I've seen Patrick Mahomes win a Super Bowl before, so I've seen him lose one too. To be fair, I've seen him lose the Super Bowl as well. But that's why I'm going with the Chiefs. I don't have the any data behind it or anything like that. I can pull up the money is where the Vegas is going right now, but it's the gut, and it feels right to me to go with a Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl. I feel like the NFL wants Patrick Mahomes to win the Super Bowl here, not to get any conspiracies or anything like that, but I definitely feel like the NFL wants another dynasty to fill the void that was the Tom Brady Patriots. They want that. They need that. So I'm not putting any hoax on this game or anything like that, but it makes sense for that void to be filled by none other than Patrick Mahomes.
Pat Mahomes MVP?
I think that makes sense. It's an easy nod for a quarterback to take that. If I had to go anywhere else, it'd be Travis Kelce.
All right, fair enough.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Corey, I have to agree with you here. Andy Reid's mustache is one of the most beautiful things on the planet.
That's true. That's a fact. It's not even an opinion. That's just science.
Yeah. I mean, top 5 mustache all time. I think. I think he's in there with Selleck and Sam Elliott and a few other great mustaches out there. All right, I'm off track here. Anyways, no, I think this is going to come down to experience. Obviously, Pat Mahomes' 3rd Super Bowl appearance, winning one. I think this would be, if Pat Mahomes does win, I think he would be the first in a long time to be a quarterback that won out of the last 6 or first 5 years of his contract, after getting paid. I'd love to see the stat on that. Oh, thanks for throwing all the plugs in there, guys. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, man. This Philadelphia defense. It's
going to be a great game, man. I mean,
they can show up and shut them down. I mean, it's. I either think money on it. I'm taking KC. I'm taking Mahomes for MVP. That it seems like to be an easy cop out, but if the Eagles win, it's going to be Hurts. If the Chiefs win, it's going to be Mahomes, and that's what it's going to come down to.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my money on the Chiefs to win. And just to give, I looked up some of the betting trends just to give you some, we like to give insight on where the money's going. So the spread is 1.5. 68% of the money is on the Chiefs to cover. 79% of the money is on the Chiefs money line outright. Chiefs win the game. 79% of the cash is on the Chiefs. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my money line bet on the Chiefs. Okay. If the Chiefs win the coin toss, I will hedge that bet with a double unit bet on the Eagles.
With a double down on the Eagles.
Whoever wins the coin toss, I will be putting more money on them or on the other team.
Did you? I'm
Why?
assuming you saw that stat.
Exactly. The team that has won the coin toss in the last 8 Super Bowls has lost the game. I have no logic behind why, but that is true. The last 8 teams to win the coin toss have lost the Super Bowl.
Your basis for statistics the entire season and the way that you pick things have always been off of it's got to happen at some point.
They're due, right?
So whoever wins the coin toss
should bet on them.
Should we not double down on that?
That's a good point.
Because it's going to happen at some point.
To where they don't.
Somebody's gonna. It's happened 8 times in a row.
It's
what are the odds of it happening 9 times?
Exactly. It's statistically less probable that it would happen 9 times in a row than it would happen 1 time out of 9. Right? It's a lot more common for it to happen 1 time in a 9 than it to not happen at all in 9 times. Right? So that's a fair point, Bobby. That's a hell of a. That's a hell of a betting nugget.
Same logic you've used all year.
I've done pretty well.
You did real nice, Clark. Yeah, no, it's the one.
Let me share some of Aaron's locks of the week before I know we're getting up against it tonight. So Aaron not with us tonight. He's actually at what is it? Rocket Mortgage Field House. Like what the fuck do they call it now? Arena? It's not Quicken Loans Arena anymore, but he's actually wrapped up. Aaron's wrapped up. He's at a bar right now, I'm sure, as the Cavs have routed the Pistons 113-85. So good night for Aaron there in Cleveland. Here's Aaron some of his locks. He's got KC to win. He's got Pat Mahomes as the MVP. He's taking the under at 50.5. Those are not his locks. Those are just his picks.
Okay.
His locks of the week, Kelsey, over 77.5 yards. He says, best receiver in the most important game. Mahomes has gone out of his way this week to praise Kelsey's place amongst the greats. With injuries in the wide receiver room, I'm comfortable with a high over. Quez Watkins, under 1.5 receptions, has hit 9 out of 14 times when Goddard plays. Hit last 2 weeks on his under receiving yards. Don't want to go to the well a third time as one big play hits the over. So attacking this bet in a different way since he had 1 target all playoffs. I like that, Aaron. Mahomes over 38.5 passing attempts. I've heard it all week. 153 Eagles have the better 153 Eagles have the better roster, but Chiefs have Mahomes. Okay, so that's his first point. Expect this game to be that plan. Expect this to be the game plan. Chiefs also use a shovel pass more than anyone as an extension of their run game, but they count as pass attempts. Expect at least 3 of these to help secure the over. Not necessarily locks on these next one, but he's already placed these bets and he likes the value. First touchdown scorer, he's got Kelsey and Goddard at plus 410. I'm assuming that's on FanDuel. Anytime touchdown scorer parlay, Kelsey and Goddard plus 398. So it's a different way to attack the above bet there. The largest lead of the game, under 14.5. Think this is a back and forth game. Don't think any team gets over a 2-touchdown lead. Pacheco over 16.5 reception yards. I really like that one. Solidified himself as a weapon. Philly has a great D-line and a few quick checks on these hits. I'm high on a lot of Pacheco props in this game, but this one seems the safest. And too fun not to put $3 on this. Both Kelseys score a touchdown plus 20,000. And the words of Kevin Malone from The Office, if anyone gives you 10,000 to 1 odds on anything, you take that bet. Well, how about we double it? Great note there, Aaron. And yeah, that would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing if both Kelsey scored a touchdown. So those are Aaron's locks of the week.
If all that was missing was Aaron's good belly laugh afterwards on that Kevin Malone quote. That's all. I heard it in my head, and I wish I got to hear it out. Yeah. I wish I could have heard it out loud.
Yeah. We miss you, Aaron. Bobby, you're muted. You're coming into what the fuck are we doing here, Bob? How long have we been doing this? 2 years? We've been doing this fucking 2 years. You coming in here muted?
Too long to come in muted. Sorry, falling asleep at the wheel over here. No, obviously he's enjoying a wonderful evening. You know, it's always a great thing when your team claps some cheeks by 40 points.
Yeah, right.
Great seats too.
Yeah, he sent us a picture. Excellent view there. But yeah, 10,000, 20,000 to 1 odds. You got to at least put $1 on that shit.
Yeah, a couple bucks, right?
I like it.
All right, we got anything else, boys?
No, I just give a note out to everybody. As Bobby said, make sure you're following us on Spotify. I know you can't watch the streams, from start to finish. We're on here for a good hour, 2 hours sometimes. So make sure you follow us on Spotify and check that out. Or Apple Podcasts, Podbean. We're on anywhere you get your podcasts. We are available there, and merch as well. We got the merch floating around. You got a 10% coupon right now. There's you can get a $25 hoodie on there, a Rally Towel Sports hoodie. You can get, a $25 snapback from Rally Towel Sports. It's a great way to help support us. We don't put any of this in our pockets. We put it back into the show to make the program better for you, to grow the community and things like that. And help us out on those Super Bowl squares. Again, 50-50 split going to the Parkinson's Foundation, to the Great Lakes chapter. It's a cause that hits home for us as a team, and one of us particular, obviously, but we want to make a point to get these squares sold and do some good in the world. That's what we're about. We're about sports, beer, and charity, and that third pillar is just as important as the first. So we appreciate everyone that's already helped, and would love for more of you to jump on in.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this is it. This is the last show
Before the
football season.
Yeah, it's what? We're done? This is it. This has been a hell of a ride, guys.
2 years, we're all done. We just rolled out merch. We're hanging it up. So, so obviously we'll have some dynamic content coming for you guys over the next couple months. We'll get into baseball, obviously basketball. We're getting into the
draft,
middle back half of that season.
Can't wait to do
obviously
some NFL draft coverage.
Yeah, we've got the draft. That's mid-April, so still about 6-7 weeks away from that. That'll be entertaining. We'll be transitioning. We'll be doing a lot of different types of content. So I hope you guys
will be identifying as basketball going forward. So
yeah, absolutely.
Bobby's his throat just dropped. He's like, "God damn it, Corey, just shut the fuck up."
Shut the fuck up, bro. But no, it's definitely gonna get interesting. Hope you guys stay tuned. Stick with us. I know a lot of the following that we've picked up has been through football. So if football is your main thing and you're not as interested in basketball or
too fucking bad
with things like that, sorry.
Yeah, you're stuck with us.
You can sit here and you can learn,
and you're gonna like it.
So the great thing about what the NFL offseason provides is that we start quizzing each other.
There's always things.
Factoids out.
Football will always be on the.
And it will always be on. We will always talk about the NFL. And here's the thing: is the Super Bowl's over. What's the first thing we start talking about?
Who's going to win next year?
We start talking about the draft.
Yeah.
But before we start talking about the draft, free agency hits, and all the big moves of free agency. It's always so much excitement that surrounds it. Sometimes we get splash moves. Last offseason, we had amazing free agency, probably the best one in the league. Typically, it's kind of been like a wah, 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 but last season, huge moves. This year is bound to be a hell of a quarterback carousel as well. So we'll get free agency, then we'll get the draft, we'll get training camp. It's not going
NFL
anywhere.
just does a really nice job of marketing their brand in the offseason.
Oh, my God.
The best of any professional sport.
They dominate the news cycle. They dominate it.
Always.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what you don't hear about? Baseball.
Nope.
Ever.
Nope. Wah, wah, wah.
Sad. All right.
Yeah. Fucking
well, that's gonna do it here for us tonight, chat. You guys enjoy your Super Bowl weekend.
Yes.
If you guys have any pictures of food or shenanigans,
share them spreads, baby.
Please share them. Send us pictures so we can post them on our page. We love you guys. Best wishes this weekend. If you're gambling, good luck, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.